Whoa, that was not me.
And that was my quiet one. I'll do a loud one if you don't quiet down.
Lord, no wonder your bees behave. Okay. I never in a dog's age expected to be up here, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself first and why Dee thought it was important that we chat. My name is Karen Winkler. I'm from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I am a third-year beekeeper and started with small cell bees straight out of the gate and have been very pleased with what's been happening and what I'm learning, and discovered Dee and Michael and actually a number of other people through the good graces of my mentor. I met my mentor, excuse me, okay, I'm going to back up just a tiny little bit. Some people think that I am arrogant. Some people think that I am abrasive. You may leave here thinking that I am haughty. I hope that you won't, but these are all things I have been called by members of my bee club.
So you're a beekeeper?
I am a beekeeper. No, I am a treatment-free beekeeper.
Good.
You'll fit right in here.
Yeah, that goes with the territory.
Oh Lord, I love you people. This isn't out of character for me. I think the operating mantra of my childhood was, can't you ever do anything like anybody else? And the answer was obviously no, because if I don't reinvent the wheel, then how am I going to improve the wheel for the next go-round? I started with bees, I'm not sure how many years ago now. I heard that they were in trouble, and there was something in that just sort of did that little heartstring thing. So I researched beekeeping for 2 years, mostly because I was too intimidated for the responsibility that I was looking at. Finally joined my local bee club, which is the Lehigh Valley Beekeepers Association. Took the Beekeeping 101 course, and as a part of the course, I kept raising my hand. What about wary hives? What about top bar hives? What about essential oils? What about, this? What about that? And they didn't have any answers for me. I mean, it's sort of like, I don't know. I had wandered in from Mars, and they didn't really know what to do with me, but they were very nice all the same. A couple weeks after my first actual bee club meeting, I got a phone call from a fellow who said that he also was organic and had planned on leaving the club because he hadn't found, aside from the association with other beekeepers, he hadn't really found anything there for him. And I said, well, if there's you and there's me, there are more. And so I put a little blurb in the club newsletter that said, are you interested in organic beekeeping? If you are, send me your contact information and we'll just have a conversation. Just, hoping to do something like a forum similar to Dee's, although we are far more lame than that. But at this point, I now have 26 people on my list, which is really encouraging because I know 2 of them are commercial beekeepers.
Wow.
Then, I just kept plugging away and doing my thing and raising my hand and piping up and saying, well, have you considered? And then this past winter, I got asked by 3 separate board members if I would consider becoming a member of the board for the club, and I said no because one of your duties in our club would be to tell other people how to raise their bees, and I don't feel as a 3-year beekeeper that I have the chops or the proof yet that my way works my way, her way, his way, this way works. And so I said, give me a couple more years and then we'll talk again. So they turned around and asked me if I would start writing a monthly article for our club newspaper, which has become obscenely popular. And it's Mutt Bee Mama's School for Unconventional Beekeeping. And I take what we are doing and I break it down into 500 to 750 word bites. And people are telling me that they can't wait till the next one comes along because I quote all of the rock gods in this room heavily. And people are eager for the information where we are. So that brings us up to about 3 weeks ago now when we had our February club meeting. And we have a new president. And he was standing up front and he talked for a full hour on winter feeding and using this sugar, and if you're organic then maybe you could use organic sugar, and that you could put a whole big splash of apple cider vinegar in your sugar syrup to change the pH, and that there are recipes online that you can use to make bricks, and you can use this kind of artificial pollen or that kind of artificial pollen. And he had samples and examples of recipes printed out and all this stuff. It was a wonderful presentation on how to poison your bees. And so when he was done, I raised my hand. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, you can feed them honey and real pollen. Polycarp. The roof caved in around my shoulders. It was, you can't do that. I mean, why would I take honey that costs $8 a pound and give that to bees? I mean, sugar is just pennies a pound. And, you get some, and I said, well, yeah, but if you factor in all the packages you replace and the cost of recleaning every 3 months, you're ahead of the game. Well, that's just absurd. You can't even begin to say that. And it went on and on and on. And it became personal. And then and remember I said I am haughty and arrogant and a lot of other things. And when I am defensive, I get defensive. And then someone else says, well, what do you do if you don't have honey? And this was something that I had asked myself because I had used up all of my honey. And so I said, well, if you're working with regressed bees, you can use honey from a health food store. Well, then the roof that had come down around my head and I disappeared into a black hole in the earth, and the club stood there and shoveled hot coals in on top of it, because you never, ever, 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 ever feed honey from an unknown source to your bees, and you'll destroy your bees, and you're going to have to burn all your equipment because of foul brood, and again, it became a very personal attack on me and how I was abusing my bees. Yes, Miss Lusby.
If it's going to destroy the bees, how do they sell it in the health food store without destroying humans?
I guess we're just not subject to American foul brood? I don't know.
You need to throw that back at them.
Well, all right, I'll remember that. Yeah, they were, tossing out all of these. This college did these studies, and bees survived perfectly well on just white sugar. And Devin, my mentor, who, if you're ever on Dee's forum, is Amrev, A-M-R-E-V, which is the name of his grunge band. Devin stood up and he says, well, there are just as many cases where they've done studies that prove that sugar is detrimental to the bees, and you can't beat honey. It's got everything that they need. It's their perfect food, and you can make a case for honey. Well, nobody picks on Devin. Why should they pick on Devin when there's a sacrificial lamb with rainbow hair? So, so anyway, finally dialed down enough that the meeting went on. And there was discussion towards the end of the meeting about wanting to do a conference and bring in a major speaker. We've got the money. We're a fairly wealthy club. And but everybody was kind of like, but I don't know how to do that. And that's something I've done a lot of in my life. So I went up to the president, despite all of this, after the club, I went up to the president and said, I will be the point man on your conference. You can make it as long as you want. We can make it a whole East Coast conference if you want, because I can do that. But I want it to be a treatment-free conference. And he said, oh, well, I don't know about that. And I said, I'm going out to Oracle, and I will be meeting these people I consider to be rock gods. And as in like the rock stars of beekeeping, just to make that clear. And he said, oh, well, I'll have to take this to the board, and we won't have a decision by then. And I said, it's okay. We can talk about this later. And I'm not sure how this got turned, but somehow it was like all that negative energy that had been in the club earlier did a funnel right into the top of this guy's head and came out at me. And it was exquisitely painful. And, and as I said, I'm abusing my bees, and I am haughty and arrogant and a long list of other things. Has anything like this happened to any of you? Wonderful. I really want to hear other people's experiences, because I have some thoughts on how maybe we can push past this, because as Michael just said a minute ago when I was talking to him, it's a pity when you see things being torn apart like that and more fragmented, because we have so much more in common than we don't. My club president is accusing me of abusing my bees because I'm not treating, because in his words, if I had a sick dog, I would take it to the vet. I've got sick bees, I'm going to treat my bees because I love my bees. And in our club, that's why people mostly have bees. It's because they love bees. So yes, what was your experience, please?
I've just been doing this for 13 years, and I've gotten all of that the whole way. And the more public I go with it, the more I get. So now I have, a Facebook page with 7,500 people in it, and a podcast with 1,200 listeners. And the more it happens, the more it concentrates. But at the same time, the more people you gather around you that are like-minded, the more you'll be comforted in that, and the opposition won't matter anymore.
I'd say that on a smaller scale. We also had a president, the first president when I went into our bee group had been recently hired by Monsanto in their research farm. And yes, definitely a lot of conflicts of interest. And that was ignored, and the necessity, although now this person who is living very much ambiguous, promoting this, and at the same time his breeding nukes were on biodynamic, chemical-free land. Yes.
But is he treating his nukes?
No, formic acid would have been all he was treating with. But
Does
he
he
was
feed his children
promoting
pesticides?
everything. No, they do organic. Organic kills me. So we did break off a small group. It finally got so contentious that a small group broke off. We didn't really grow much because it was no one really wanted to take the leadership in organizations. So we met for about 3 years. And what I did was surround myself with people who were treatment-free that I met through biodynamic workshops, that I met at the organic community gardens and other places. I went to the Waldorf school because they're using herbal preparations on the land to nurture it and no pesticides. And I began to teach both the parents and the students. And so that was in North Carolina. And Monsanto and Bayer are deeply entrenched. Bayer has, at their bee care center, trained our state inspectors. Not to say that, I mean, one state inspector is organic, and you can call him and he'll come and he'll say, well, I'm not supposed to know about this. And I'd say, okay, then I'm not going to talk about it. But it's more finding the people that will listen. And we did have, after this person was president that was working for Monsanto, two women who were co-presidents and did transitional and said, we will deal with treatment-free and with treatment. And that helped to begin to diminish some of the excessive aggression from people who had done it a certain way and felt very threatened by being offered a different option.
The co-president thing is a brilliant idea.
It was great.
Yeah. Who else? Yes.
I was the president.
And?
I said, I don't know why did you feed bees sugar water? And some guy said, you can't say that in here. And I said, well, what I can do is I can go home. I drive 96 miles one way to this meeting. I said, I can go home and you people can have it. We had a guy, I got nothing against people with money. This guy had money.
Thanks.
He had arrogance. He decided to be a beekeeper overnight, went down and bought 500 hives. He knows everything there is to know about everything. He's got people out there working for him. He wants to go up in the political structure of the Texas Beekeepers Association, which is nothing more than a political movement, has absolutely nothing to do with beekeeping, by the way. And so he was the president for 2 years, and he alienated a lot of people. They don't come anymore. And I was trying to get it back on a level of what's wrong with your bees. What are we going to talk about your bees, not how important I am now. And I couldn't get it to that point. When they finally said that, I just walked off from there.
Wow.
But the state of Texas, I'm in compliance with the food laws. All of my stuff is stainless steel.
Oh, wow.
But in the inspection laws, I'm not in compliance with the state of Texas, because in the cottage laws it states half of his salary comes from fines. So that means when he comes out there to look at my bees,
whoa, he's got that's a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
It's absolutely states it in the law that half of his salary comes from fines. And what I'm supposed to do is tell the state of Texas where all of my bees are at and put a number on them. And if those bees move anywhere and they find that number, they can fine me. And so that's what the basic law is. It's a Class C misdemeanor, by the way, and it's only $500. And besides, you got to prove that's my hive to start with. But Texas is
So if somebody comes along and steals all your hives and moves them, you got to pay a fine.
Well, I don't know who they are.
Lord love and dog.
Texas is awful as far as the bee laws.
I'm sorry. I'm from Pennsylvania on the East Coast. I'm going to be quiet about anything like that. That's your politics. Yes.
I contacted a woman that ran a newsletter in her area, just kind of letting her know that I'd begun a group, and that we were treatment-free. And would you please put the word out to give people the option? She's like, well, can you give me a little bit more history about your group? And so I did, and she goes, you are treating people to treat their bees as well, aren't you? And I said, no, actually, this is an opportunity to learn about different styles of beekeeping to where you won't treat. And she said that I was being extremely irresponsible, and that I was spreading disease in our community.
Yeah. Yeah.
I ended the conversation at that point.
Yeah, my presidents treated bees that had, really low mite levels, and there was a treatment-free guy who actually was just a lame duck that bought a package and never treated it. And his bees went and robbed their bees, and he lost hives because of all the mites that came in despite his treatments, and yet I don't treat. And they actually sent a PhD in varroa mites out to my hives this past summer to test them herself, because the word got out that I had 0 mites. And I did. I had 0 mites. And she came out and was flabbergasted. You know.
That's not possible.
Yeah, exactly. That's impossible to do. So, and you, yes.
No, this is nothing new. This is the same treatment that organic growers, as speaking from personal experience, got in the beginning.
Yeah.
When the Missouri Ruralists came out and did an article on our farm in central Missouri, the publisher editor said, you know, we're going to catch shit for this story. I said, oh, why? Naively. He said, we'll get it from DuPont.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is diametrically opposed to what they want to do. So that's nothing new.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a note on feeding bees honey or sugar. We heard the same thing, like you feed your bees honey, they're gonna die, and like every type of honey except for the one that one hive makes is poison. Bees are always robbing out other hives, or if a hive is abandoned, they go and take the honey out of that hive. And so they're always eating foreign honey from other bees anyway, and the world doesn't, you know, cave in. So
Yeah.
we've never had any problems with it.
I know, back to, and thank you for that, because I don't know what the speed limit was on the interstate, but I know I was ignoring the speed limit on the interstate when I was driving home from this meeting going, I gotta get hold of D, I gotta get hold of D, I gotta get. I was in a pink lather, mostly because I was white-knuckled petrified that I had just destroyed my colonies with foul brood. You know, I didn't care about the insults and all this. I mean, yeah, you care, but I didn't care. It's not like I haven't heard it before. And I came back, and thank goodness Dee was still up and on her computer. I was like, this just happened to me, and I just got my butt handed to me in my club meeting. And she laughed at me. Her sympathy is, tough love is exactly. And then she told me exactly what I needed to hear. And I was so grateful that, you know, she put that out there. And then Marshall wrote me and he said, well, you know, if you've got regressed bees, then there's probably a large feral component to that, and blah, 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 you know, survivor bees. And Marshall is so wonderful with all of his references. Dee had mentioned, when I was checking in, we were talking about what was I going to say. She was saying, when I checked in, she said, man, I hope everybody that registered shows up. And I was like, well, why on earth would they not? She goes, oh, I've had people call me and say that they were told if they came to this meeting that their house wouldn't be there when they got home. And if you have ever read the forum, or if you know Dee personally, you know that I am 61 years old. I have never had a hero until I came across Dee Lusby. I think she is the single bravest human being I have ever encountered in my whole life. And, yeah, absolutely. But the things that she personally has had to endure because of the Monsanto Bayer Dow conflicts it's terrifying. You know, I mean, this is quote America, isn't it? And this is the heartland.
Even within the beekeeping community at large,
yeah,
she's attacked.
Well, and that's what distresses me. And I know that, you know, for my part, I'm a mouth. In case you can't tell, Devin, my mentor, is a hardcore introvert, and I love him to pieces. He is very wise in the ways of bees, and he won't speak out. You know, it's just not in him to do that. So he tells it to me, and I'm like, wait a minute! And so, you know, I have a turtle shell, used to the arrows that come to the backs of those who lead, I guess. But I feel so blessed that my club is starting to soften towards us. I was talking with one of the master beekeepers in our club, who, if you look up irascible curmudgeon in the dictionary, his picture is there. And when I was taking my Bee 101, and I'm all about the itty bitty bees and blah blah blah, he said, you know, one of these days we're going to have you speak to the club. And I said, oh no, you know, probably not. You know, it'll be a long time coming. He goes, no, you're in it for the bees. You know where you're going, and you're going to get there. So when I was discovered to have 0 mites, at the next club meeting I walked in and I got a standing ovation, and I had not told a soul. And I thought that was pretty cool. So this master beekeeper and I were talking, and I said, you know, Bill, give me a year or two and you're going to be buying all your queens from me. He goes, yeah. And I kind of looked at him, and he says, oh, I think that organic is the way all of us are going to have to go in the future if we're really interested in saving our bees. Now, for my master beekeeper to say that is a total 180 from the man who stood in front of me in my Beekeeping 101 class and said, you think you're going to ever tell me anything about bees? So I know, where's Tracy? Tracy, raise your hand. Oh, there you go. Okay. This is Tracy. I'm head over heels in love with her. She does not have any bees yet. She has been on Dee's Forum asking questions, and asking really smart questions, and really working her little butt to try and get focused about what this is all about before she commits to the bees. She went to her Beekeeping 101 class, and she had a little bit of an unfortunate experience. What was the phrase? You vibrated trying to keep your mouth closed? Was that what it was?
No. It was very hard. I was clamping my lips and, you know, trying not to say anything.
Yeah. But what was most interesting to me was Tracy came back and she wrote up this is my 101 experience, and she got a lot of feedback from other members of the forum. And the feedback seemed to be pretty much 50-50 split, right down the middle, between people like me saying, keep going to your meetings, go to your meetings, get to know the people, ask your questions, because there are people in your club that don't want to treat bees, and you can lead them to light. There are so many people out there that don't want to treat, but they don't know how to find what we've found. And the other half were saying, beep the club, set out on your own, you're ready to start a new club. And Tracy's like, no, I don't have bees. And as I listened to these conversations and participated in them, it was really interesting because there are clubs out there, like the one with the Monsanto president, where you can't get an open mind in edgewise, I guess, and you have no choice but to segregate yourself. And then there are clubs where, like mine, where it's a hardcore old boys network of mostly commercial beekeepers, and they really don't want, even my president, I don't want to treat my bees. I have to treat my bees because they will die otherwise. But there's not a beekeeper in here who wants to treat his bees. And if I hadn't been close to tears, I probably would have tried to speak up, but I was just... So, what are you guys' thoughts on ways that maybe we can help reach some of these people that want but don't know how? Yes?
I've noticed that the urban beekeeping movement tends to be a lot more open, particularly the new beekeepers, because like when you have somebody that's just coming into it fresh, getting excited about it, it seems like their default thinking is that they're not going to, they don't even know that there is this world of tetrabiosin and all this other nonsense. They haven't even learned that. So that's actually a good point to sort of intercept those people and at least give them the option.
Yeah.
Because when I started, there was my local beekeeper. He was a bee supply guy. He'd been doing it for 50 years, great old guy. Had written a book, and that's where I started. And you know, he had the normal treatments and all. Here's the equipment you get, and you know, eventually I learned via the internet that all this was not necessarily correct.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that a lot of focus just needs to be given to backyard beekeepers, because when you think about commercial beekeepers who have a lot of hives and a lot of equipment and particular responsibilities that they think that they need to fill, them moving over to a totally new way of beekeeping is a whole different ballgame from people with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6 hives in their backyard. And it's those beekeepers that have the flexibility to try new things, to keep their mind open, to really watch their bees, to take a lot of notes, because they don't have that whole commercial aspect that's driving them. And I think the inroads happen there. And if it's really successful over the years, there will be spillover. But in our area, we pretty much say, you know, just let the old school guys and the commercial beekeepers do what they're going to do and find their own evolution. But backyard beekeeping is a revolution now, and everybody who's coming into it is looking for a new and better way to be. And the way you manage bees in a neighborhood is just going to be a bit different than when you've got you know, hives in 6 different outlying areas that you're visiting, and honey production. And the new people stepping in, and especially the amount of women stepping in to backyard hives, is that form your groups and your newsletters and your information to address them.
Yeah. And do you have any, I figured you'd have a say-so on this.
Well, back when I started speaking at beekeeping meetings about not treating bees.
Well, can everybody hear you?
He's got the little voice.
I don't give the mic up to just anybody.
Everybody always says, mic check, mic check. I'm good. I'm good. Now, back about 13 years ago, I started going around speaking about treatment-free beekeeping, and people would get irate. I mean, they get angry. I don't see that nearly as much now. So I think there's been a change over time, and some of that is because treating has been failing now for the last 13 years.
It's all in the pocketbook. It's all in the pocketbook. When they start losing money, they'll come over to your side.
Well, and I think that's part of what's happened is the treating has failed. And so not treating is sounding far more interesting when treating is not working anymore. And it's not working anymore. And so at least some of them are acknowledging it's not working. Some of them are still doing it, it's still not working, and they're trying